Bang, you're connected.
Okay, now
Ready?
how do I? But how? That's
Just. It'll take a second. There you go.
all right. So how do I get that here on this post? How do I get? How do I?
You just have to put the like.
How do I put the link there? Is what I'm saying.
Find the link to your YouTube. It's
Hi everyone, I'm Gigi from Gigi Stamps, and first of all, my apologies for everyone. I'm so sorry that my Facebook Live didn't go on at 4 o'clock after 45 minutes of my son, who is a whiz at this, tried to figure out what was wrong. He said, forget all this, we're going to put it on YouTube. So hopefully somebody will find me here. If not, it'll live on my YouTube and we'll keep working with it. I am so glad you came or came later to look at it. I just had a lot of people asking me a lot of questions about this wonderful card that I had made for the blog hop, and it's all about the aqua painters and coloring. So I thought I would at least pop on here for a little bit and show you how to color. And I'm gonna, one of the things, my apologies, I have to keep looking. Let me center this and transition. I'm really bad at remembering to transition. Now I'm going to plop my head down and start looking, so my apologies if I'm not looking at you when I showed you this card here. This was the French Countryside card that I had shown in the blog hop today with Team Stamp It. It was at the bottom because our whole theme was celebrations, and after I made this lovely card I realized nothing in it was celebrations. So but I love it, and I love doing the watercolor, so I thought I would show everyone how they can create something like this with many of the Stampin' Up! Stamps that are just outlines. It takes some practice, but it's so much fun and I love doing it. So I'm going to show you how I created this part here today. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take, this is the shimmery white Whisper White paper, and of course I used StazOn, and I'm going to ink up my stamp with the StazOn. Now I love StazOn for watercolor because it really holds the ink and it doesn't run when you're doing it. And I apologize for all the pounding. Now that it's inked up nicely, the next thing I will do is I'm going to stamp the image in the center. We are going to crop this, but I'm going to hold it down. I'm not pushing really hard. I'm putting equal pressure on it, but I'm holding it for a little bit so that the ink really does get into the paper. It takes a minute for it to just kind of absorb in there like that. And after a little bit of doing that, you'll see that you have a nice image. When my students were doing it in my class, they did the first couple of times and they were frustrated that it didn't come out as quickly or as easily as they wanted to. So this is the first place I start, is with the image, and then I started with the terracotta color. And you do know how you put the ink on the top of the cover to make it good for the aqua painters. And then we can, I'm gonna see if I can move this so that you can see this. All right, there you go. So I'm ducking down, my apologies, but notice I'm just taking the edge here. I'm getting it a little wet, and I'm not putting a whole lot of ink. And for this one, I started on the outside. I do a little bit of light color. I can always get darker. I can't get lighter. So I just want a little bit of color right where it's dark. I put that in on all these edges here, right in here. I want to make sure that you see what I'm doing here on the edge. I'm not putting my aqua painter in the center at all of the, there's some right there, and there, and there. There's a little bit of roof there, and down here like this. Making sure that you can see all that. And I can go back in it a little bit more after I've done some of it. Say where I want it to be a little darker. And a hint that Stampin' Up! Gives you for where you want it to be a little darker is where they make the lines closer together and make it darker. I'm also going to add a little bit of pink to the two chimneys here and here. Okay? And that's the first thing. And I always have paper towel right next to me, and I always clean my brush on the paper towels just like that. Okay? And you do know that with the aqua painters, if you just squeeze the barrel a little bit, more water comes out, and you can actually get lots of water if you want. And actually, we will be getting lots of water soon. So, that's all I'm doing with the terracotta right now. I may go back into it, but I'm going to just leave it right here for a moment. The next one I'm going to go with is the crumb cake. And I think I need to put a little bit more ink on there. Now, if you can't, and I just squeeze it just like that, and it just touches the ink pad cover like that. And when I open it, you can see I've got more of that ink in there. Okay, and if you can see that right there, I'm going to just touch a little bit of the ink right in there. And then I'm going to put the crumb cake on the roof so that I have a little bit of brown and a little bit of that terracotta. I thought the terracotta was a little bit too pink, but I just like the way it gave me a little bit of color. And then I add a little bit of the crumb cake, and it softens the pink a little bit. And just down there like this. Now, the next place I'm going to do the crumb cake is on all these bricks. And I'm just going to lightly touch every other brick on the sides. And I don't know if you've ever used the aqua painters before, but Stampin' Up! Gives you two aqua painters. One is on the clear end cap, and one is the blue cap. The clear cap is a smaller one, and the blue cap is the medium one. We're actually going to use the blue capped one later when we start doing the sky, and I'll show you how we affect that beautiful kind of lightly cloudy sky, like a springtime sky. I thought this was so pretty. And I'm just going to put this in, gently put all around these here, every other one. And I'll show you why that's so important to do every other one when we come to coloring in the main, sorry, I know I'm ducking down. This is great when I'm talking to you perfect height directly, but when I'm coloring, I apologize, I'm kind of scooting down here. Hopefully your eyes are, I'm going to take it a little darker and go down here where these what look like wooden pieces are. I'm going to take the crumb cake in here too, and just put this in this way, just to give it a little bit of color here. And in the trellis over here, I'm going to add that here. And there's some trellis there, and there, and there. I did spend a lot of time looking at this stamp to decide what I was going to do with all the different lines that are in it. And then some in here, down here at the bottom. Yeah, right across there, and the bottom of the window here. And across the bottom there. Okay. Place else. I think I want to add a little bit darkness here and here. Just like that. And the circle window at the top there, I'm also going to put those little bricks in there. so that you have that area in there. And again, I keep going back into it so that I have different levels of darkness. This helps with giving the watercolor depth. And I think I want to do a little bit in here and in there where the shadow is. And then I can see some more here on the side, those straight lines here and here with the windows. There. When you're doing this, take a minute to look back and say, what do you think I need here? Where do I want to put a little bit more color? And then you can always go back into it afterwards. And I'm going to clean my brush again. I know you can't see that part because I really want you to see closely. The next color I'm going to work with is, as I put this aside, is the Petal Pink. And for this one, it didn't really collect much when I pushed on the cover, so I just dropped a little bit of the, refill, just one drop. And the reason I'm going to put Petal Pink is because I'm going to color the rest. I'm just going to put a light wash. This is called a wash, where you just kind of cover it over like this on the rest of the building, so that the crumb cake then becomes the darker color, the shadow, and this lovely pink terracotta kind of blends with the terracotta color. This pink looks like, it's just so pretty in here. And I do a little bit more darkness up here along the roof line and here, and then a little bit of darkness right here on this side, because of course the shadow casts itself that way, and then over here along this side, and down here. And it's not all completely even, and I do that so that it really has depth. If you looked at a house, you'd notice that there were spaces where it's lighter and darker. Okay, and now that I've done that, I'm going to start working on the greens in this whole thing. And I started with the lightest color, which is the Granny Apple green, which you can see there. Let me see if I can turn it around this way so I can work on it without, and the card is in here, there. And I noticed that somebody else has joined us, and welcome. I'm glad you came. I thank you for your patience. And I hope this is working well. I'm going to just start taking light dots of the Granny Apple green, not a whole lot, just in all of the areas where it looks like there is foliage, and there it happens to be a lot of it. Excuse me while I take off my glasses. I'm a second grade teacher normally during the day, my real job, the one that pays the bills so I can play with Stampin' Up. And my kids laugh because most of the time my glasses are not on my eyes, but that's because when I read or color or write, I can't see. And in order to see who's walked in my classroom door, I have to put my glasses on. So I'm doing this really lightly, all the way around, just like that, just tapping into it. When you do trees, notice that toward the top and the outside of the edges of the trees, that's where you're going to find the lightest leaves, the yellowest leaves. Okay? You're going to see the darker leaves in the deepest or the shaded parts of the trees. So when we get to the shaded spruce, which is the next color, and again, notice I have not got a whole lot of stamp ink on my brush. I let it be light, little bits at a time. You can always make it darker, which I am doing with this tree. I am going back in each time and going a little darker. And I am not being very specific. I am just pushing it around. And notice that, and I'm going to move to the grass now, you can go over the lighter colors with the darker color, and it's fine. Harder to go over the darker colors with the lighter colors. I love this Granny Apple Green because it's like springtime. It's that yellowy green that we see in all the leaves, and I suppose if I change this just a little bit in color, if I darkened up the colors with the leaves and the grass, it would look like summer, because of course by the time summer comes around, all those leaves are so dark. Oh, I just realized, Brianna, hi. I believe it's Brianna. Again, I'm trying to look and paint at the same time, so welcome. Thank you for coming. Now, the next color is going to be that dark color. Excuse me, I just inhaled ink. I love my craft room, but I do, as a true artist, I get really close to my my materials. All right, there we go. Now I'm putting in the dark green. Oh, gotta make sure that I'm not in your... Notice I'm putting it in the areas where it's the darkest, where they have the most lines in there, okay? Just little touches of it. Just tiny touches of that dark green. And I don't want it too dark, because I'm going to add Old Olive to it as well. I am not going to put this green in the grass. That's the one place I will not put it. I'm going to put it right here on the... and some in the bushes here. Toward the bottom of the bushes, to give it a little bit of depth. Okay, and that's about all I'm going to do. Next thing that I'm going to use is the Old Olive. As you can see, this is the Old Olive, and this one complements these two colors wonderfully. It has the yellow that's also in the Granny Apple Green, so when I start pushing it over the spruce, it kind of tones down that bright blue, but it still gives it enough depth right in there. So you can see how the tree still looks dark because of that, but it still has some depth in there and down here. And I love the way that looks. So you can see that it's dark and shaded, but it's really not as yellow. There's that blue from the shaded spruce. It looks lovely. And I'm just going to darken these up right here. Just a little bit. All the way around. And there. And then the only other place I'm going to do this is right in with the grass, because we do want to have some shading in with the grass so that it's not all the same color. And now I'm going to look over it and decide whether I want to put, and I think over here by the windows, I want to add a little bit more crumb cake, so I might be doing that again inside the windows. I'm also going to let the rest of this kind of dry a minute. Hold the crumb cake, sorry, out of the way. I'm just going to go over into the windows a little bit to make it look a little darker. Right in here by the windows. Because they're under the under this trellis, so just adding a little bit there. Now, this should have dried enough on the outside. It is. I'm just feeling my fingers around it. And it is time for us to now create the sky. So I'm going to start here at the top, and I'm actually going to squeeze and make lots of water come out of my water aqua painter. And I think you might be able to see it reflecting on my lights. I'm going to go around now. The one great thing about the StazOn is it's not going to let the water go into the area where I've already painted because it acts as a barrier. This is a wonderful part about that StazOn, but I need lots of water because when I start adding the blue into the sky, I need the blue ink to float. It's going to float around and it's going to travel in its own path. And now you're like, well, wait a minute. What's going to happen to this paper? Well, actually, when you look at this, I'm going to show you this one. I did the same thing to this one, and you can see how, well, I should show it to you again. You're going to watch how the blue in the pool party kind of just travels into the water, and it kind of gives you a lovely feel as it goes by itself, and I just let it go. And if it's not traveling enough, I'll add some more water. But it makes its own way around the water, and then when it dries, it will have this lovely look of, wait a minute, where did the water go? Where did the clouds start and the color of the sky begin? And I'm not brushing. I'm just kind of traveling along. But I don't want to just to let it sit there. But I do want to have spots of dark color and then traveled color. And it really looks pretty, just like that. And I know that my paper is getting a little wet, and that's okay. And just let it go. And then I'm going to let it dry. Just like that. I know that it looks like it's not going to work, but you just let it dry. And that makes this really pretty feeling of clouds traveling through the sky. And that's all it does. And it will dry very nicely. While it's drying, I thought I would show you, and then we're going to cut it after it dries, but I thought I would show you on my blog hop today, the other card was the wishing you a sunshine and happiness. But I wanted you to see how I did these lovely wings. They look almost iridescent. And it's the same technique. And I'm reaching over the camera because I had moved the paper. I had lovely pieces of that paper sitting right here so I could just show you. And did I lose it? I did. Hang on, let me get you some more. Right here. I just wanted to give you an example of how I did those wings. Again, I just take the cover and push it right into the ink pad, and you're going to get a little bit of ink. And you're just going to color it, get the aqua painter, and then I just gently followed the gold embossing just along the edges, and I didn't go in a whole lot. And then once I've used up all the ink that was on the brush, I go back in and gently wash it a little bit so it comes out just like that. And just like that. And it just gives that erythral look. And I just brush them in. I just thought it was so pretty to give these lovely gold bees purple wings and whatnot. You can see it here too. And it's just brush it in lightly like that. And I think I just brushed into the antenna. But that was what I did with that. Now, this is dried pretty much, a little bit less than, I mean, I would do a little bit more. But I just wanted to show you, after you've done that, how when you cut it out, this curl doesn't even show up. So give me a minute. I'm running over to my my machine over here, and I used there it is. I used the rectangle stitched labels or frames. I'm sorry, and I'm going to run over here, place it down. Move it up just a little bit. And there you go. And you can see how after we've done that, the sky starts to show up. And if I use the heat tool on it, it will dry even further, and it will look like that. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I know that a lot of people ask me about this, and I love showing people all about coloring, whether it's watercolor like this or like this in this card here. And I hope you'll come back when I do some other coloring. I'm going to try and do this more often, even though I am, let me just see if I can switch this here. There you go. I'm going to come back more often and show people techniques on watercolor and other coloring techniques. Whether it be blends like this or watercolor pencils. I just love coloring. I think that, I keep saying, laughing and creativity is food for the soul, and for me, definitely a necessary. Now is a fabulous time to be exploring the French countryside set and the honeybee bundle, because of course with celebrations you can get all sorts of things. And visit my blog, visit my website if you are interested in finding out more. Again, thank you so much, and we will be back again. I will put it on my Facebook page, but I will let you know when I come back to do another tutorial. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon.